Hi everyone. So this is AJ from SatsOverCents, and I have my brother here, Varun. And today we're going to talk about why Bitcoin matters. Every time we speak to anybody new who doesn't know much about Bitcoin, everybody's heard about Bitcoin. That's a given. But there are times when there are people who say, "Why should I care about Bitcoin? Why does Bitcoin matters? And why should I invest in it as opposed to ETF, stocks, gold, equity, or even art. These days, art is or NFTs are also quite popular. But talk about art because you're talking about anything non-crypto here, and how it compares to those things, right? So why it matters, why you should consider, making it part of your portfolio if you have room there, and how does it compare to traditional investments? Even though this is not financial advice, this is not investment advice, we are just chit chatting for the sake of fun. Here we go. Varun, over to you.
Hey everyone. So first off, why Bitcoin matters? Bitcoin is important because it's decentralized digital currency. In simple terms, that means no one owns it. So unlike regular money, which is controlled by governments and central banks, Bitcoin runs on a network of people. No single entity has the power to control it. It's peer to peer. Meaning, one can send Bitcoin to anyone, anywhere without needing a bank or any middleman. And that is huge because it gives you financial freedom. So you don't have to rely on any third parties, any government or bank institutions. So you might wonder, why is the traditional system bad? While the current financial system is broken, the government and central banks can print money at will. That is why, many of us, we don't hold too much of money in a bank account. It's like holding an ice cube. It's going to keep melting away because the money is getting devalued. So that leads to inflation, where things are getting more expensive day by day. That's why if you just compare with a year ago, the value of $100 or £100 or whatever fiat currency you are dealing with, it's not the same. Every year it is losing its value. So once your money is losing value, you lose purchasing power. Bitcoin is, however, deflationary. There will only be 21 million Bitcoins, no more. This makes Bitcoin immune to inflation and currency devaluation. Let's talk about why you should actually invest in Bitcoin instead of things like gold, stocks, ETF, or real estate. Now, here I'm not talking about, when I talk about real estate, I'm not talking about primary residence because it has a utility which is to provide a roof over your head. But I'm just purely talking about where you should be storing your wealth. And one of the biggest reason is self-custody. With Bitcoin, you own it completely. You have the private keys, which means no one can take it from you. Compare that to gold, real estate, or stocks. Those things are not in your full control. Gold needs to be stored somewhere, needs to be checked by someone to give you that certification. Stocks are controlled by the market or the government. Real estate has all sort of taxes, regulation, and other issues that limit your control. Another reason I would say Bitcoin is a better investment, is that it doesn't have the same tax burden as these other assets. So, for example, let's say if you own real estate, you'll have to
Mhm.
pay property tax every year. You'll have to maintain that property. There would be a wear and tear. There is a maintenance cost attached to it. With Bitcoin, there is no maintenance. You just self custody it and then you leave it. The only thing you have to do it, you have to hodl it. Hodl means you hold on to your dear life. You don't sell it. So if you store Bitcoin properly, no one can tax it unless you sell or trade it. And you can also move to a country where there are no taxations on capital gains, right? So this is why one should have Bitcoin in their portfolio. If you have a lot of gold, it's hard to move it around. Bitcoin, on the other hand, it can easily be transferable. You can send it anywhere in the world within minutes, just using your phone or your laptop. Plus, with gold, there are storage fees and security concerns. You don't have that with Bitcoin. So these are, I would say, the basic to start with. Uh, and as and when we try and cover each topic separately, we would further go into the details of it, that why Bitcoin is better than any other asset. Everybody needs to study Bitcoin because the current financial system is broken. I would say, taxation is number one where a lot of people don't focus on it. 50% of our salaries, or let's say income, goes away in direct and indirect taxes. There are people in the position of power who are able to print money, and because of that there is inflation, and because of that there is devaluation of the currency. So how do you safeguard? How do you ensure that uh, you're not getting poorer day by day? And Bitcoin solves all of these issues, and that is why I feel that everybody should study Bitcoin. uh, you can quote me. Anybody who studied Bitcoin has never come back saying that I don't trust this asset class. And this is why now we've reached a point where everybody's talking about Bitcoin, and we are in middle of a bull market.
Yeah, so I have a few follow-up questions on what you just said. I think that was a really good answer, very detailed. My question is, if you're saying that if you want financial freedom, you need to adapt to Bitcoin. You need to have Bitcoin in your portfolio. What do you really mean by financial freedom then?
So we don't have total control over our money. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to move to another part of the world. You can only take cash up to a certain limit. You want to send your money, your taxed money, where you are paying your taxes, to someone else. There is a limit how much you can send. And you need the approval of governments, you need the approval of third party, where, if they allow, then only the transaction can go through. But in Bitcoin, once you do the transaction, it's on blockchain technology. Nobody can stop it. No individual, no institution, no government can stop it. This is why I would say, there is a financial freedom there. And the
Mm.
best part about it is, like, Ajay, you're giving away your time and energy to earn whatever fiat currency is associated with where you are living. And think about it, the time that you're spending, which you will never get it back. And people who are in the position of power, they are just able to print it without any fundamental attached to it. It was not like, until 1971, any country could print only the kind of gold reserves they have with them. But after 1971, there is no gold standard. That this is why people are losing, their purchasing power every year.
Okay, so I got that. That Bitcoin helps you get that financial freedom because of the economics behind it, right?
Yes.
My question is, okay, so let's say I know inflation is an issue. I know interest rate is an issue. I know taxation is, an issue. For somebody who's salaried, who's getting a paycheck by the end of the week or end of the month, let's say they have 10% of their salary that they can afford to invest. Why should they invest in something like Bitcoin, which is so risky? We don't know who the founder is. We don't know what the tangible benefit is. As opposed to if I put my money in S&P 500 or just buy gold ETFs where I don't need to store it. It's still safe. I still get the asset that I want in my portfolio, which is gold. Um, yeah, why should I take that much risk when I have other avenues?
I would say the biggest risk is holding fiat currencies. This is why one needs to study Bitcoin, because nobody can manipulate the total supply of Bitcoin available. And it will always be 21 million. That is number one. Number two, why will I hold, or why will I invest something which is manipulated? And there are so many factors that I'm dependent on as an individual. How is the company performing? Is the company doing good? Someone who's sitting in the position of power, who's able to take those decisions, is the person not corrupt, or is he a corrupt person, which because of which only the certain circle and only the early investors are able to make some money? This is why we all need to study Bitcoin, because of the fact that it gives you a complete control over your money. And if someone who's getting into Bitcoin, I would say, think of a long term. Treat it like a digital gold, treat it like, a real estate property, which you buy it not to sell immediately. You need to have a similar approach. Let's say if someone who's working, and we know that 50% of their income is not even touching their hand, and not even touching the bank account. This is why we as middle class, we need Bitcoin the most. And the best way to invest is in dollar cost averaging, where you put in a certain amount every day or every week or every month, depending on your budget, and you dollar cost average. Then you wouldn't feel that Bitcoin is volatile. And volatile, people say that is actually is a feature and not a bug. And once you're doing dollar cost averaging and you have a long term vision, I have never met a person who's invested in this, I would say, in this Bitcoin world for more than 4 years and is still in loss. So from the data what we have from the last 15, 16 years of Bitcoin's existence, I would say think it like a long term. And if you are in it for quick money, then I don't think so. It is for everybody. It's only for people who have the long term vision and something. It's like a generational wealth. How would you treat digital gold, or how would you treat real estate?
Okay. So that's why that's how Bitcoin is different. But the next question I had was when you compared Bitcoin to ETFs and stocks, I can take my stock portfolio to the bank and the bank will take that as collateral and give me a mortgage or a loan based on my assets, right? So that's my number one point, that I can't do that with Bitcoin. That's number one. Or can be. So I don't know if you know anything about definance and if there is anything that's coming. But hold on to that question, keep that
Okay,
aside.
sure.
The second question I have, if the whole strategy is of hodling or holding for dear life, uh, say I want to exercise my gains. Like I have, let's say I bought Bitcoin at 90,000 and now Bitcoin is trading at 300,000. I can see it on paper that I've made money and my net worth has gone up. But if the whole strategy is that I shouldn't sell, how do I exercise those gains? Because I can't even take a loan against my assets. So where do I sit as an investor on that scenario?
I would say that there are a lot of technologies, or there are a lot of layer twos which are developing on Bitcoin as a base layer. That is why you must have heard of Lightning Network, which is faster than Visa or MasterCard. Places like Argentina or Zimbabwe or Turkey or Lebanon, where people are unbanked, where people don't have an option of using any other fiat currency because their fiat currency is basically worthless. So they are using day to day in the form of cash or money, like how El Salvador has made it Bitcoin like a legal tender. So they're able to use it in their day to day life, and they have applications where you can use it. Uh, there goes, it depends on where you are. Currently, if you are in a country where your fiat currency is not a disaster at the moment, so you would use it as a store of value. But where you
Hmm.
are in a country where you are not able to get where you're not able to get the benefits of having a bank account, and you're able to take debt from the banks and all, there you use Bitcoin. And recently there was some news on Elon Musk has moved his Bitcoins from Tesla's balance sheet, and basically he's putting Bitcoin as a collateral and taking debt on the value of the Bitcoin he holds. So there would be more applications coming in. There would be more institutions coming in. Now, since we know that ETF is already launched, it's been almost a year now. So there
Hmm.
are nation states coming in, there are institutions coming in, and very soon you will be able to take debt on your Bitcoin holdings. I wouldn't say yes, it is not there as of today, but yes, you have few applications where you are able to cash out in the form of a gift card, or you are able to just buy, real estate directly through Bitcoins, and at least in the Middle East, UAE. And in Canada, there are applications where you are able to receive uh, your monthly or your bi-weekly income, and it depends on your flexibility, how much do you want to convert that into your Bitcoin holding. So there are applications, yes, but when it comes to taking debt on your Bitcoin, I would say it's still not there yet. But like I said, this is the only asset, the fastest asset to achieve $1 trillion market cap, and there's a lot to be done. Right now, we are just at 5% adoption, right? If
Hmm.
you compare it. And you know that Bitcoin adoption is faster than the internet adoption, right? We are in the early 2000s stage yet. So, yes. it will take, I would say, some time for you to make the most of it. But for now, the main purpose I would say is to just have it as part of your portfolio and make sure that you are not losing your purchasing power.
Okay. Okay, got it. So I think that it's in the making, it's in the process, it's very early on, it's very early stage, which is why we don't have those traditional setups in place where you can collateralize your assets to get a temporary loan for whatever that you need it for. Okay. Um, you mentioned about Bitcoin ETF. What is the benefit of having a Bitcoin putting money in a Bitcoin ETF versus buying the Bitcoin directly?
I would say since we have the know-how of buying Bitcoin and self-custodining it, so I would say people who can do it should rather just go for Bitcoin, right? Because there's a reason why you got into Bitcoin, because you don't trust the traditional financial system. But let's talk about our parents. Let's talk about, a generation where managing a smartphone doesn't come naturally, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's an effort for them. So for them, they would rather wanna, if you want a certain exposure in Bitcoin and you don't know the know-how and you don't trust anybody and you still, have trust in the big institution, it is for those people who
Mhm.
wants to put in dollars, who wants to put in the fiat currency, and the only way you can withdraw is through fiat currency. You can never withdraw your Bitcoin. So it's like you have an IOU of Bitcoin, but you don't technically own it.
Mm, I
It's like
see.
stocks. You don't technically own the stock. It's an IOU. From, let's say, if you're buying from a certain application, they own it. You just have access to it and you just own it on paper. But the only time you can deposit is fiat currency and you can withdraw in fiat currencies.
Right. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Thanks for answering that question. And then the last question I think I have for this episode is you mentioned things like uh, countries, governments using Bitcoin because their currency is, super devalued. How is Bitcoin helping resolve that? What is Bitcoin solving for in that kind of scenario?
US was able to add $850 billion in just 90 days. Now they've reached $36 trillion worth of debt. And their GDP to debt ratio, I would say, is about over 100 something. So basically, it's like, AJ, if you are making, for example, £5,000 a month, and you have a debt to pay every month, which is £6,000, then you're not moving forward. You're going actually backwards, right? And every country is in a similar state at the moment because uh, we no longer follow gold standard. So we've been printing away to glory. And now we printed to such an extent that there is no way out. This is why uh, countries are holding Bitcoin, because eventually every country's fiat currency is going to go worthless. And this happens every 100, years. We've seen that with pound, which was before dollars, and now we are seeing it with dollars. It's crossed 100 years and now it's on the verge of collapse. This is why the dollar is losing its purchasing value. So every country eventually will start owning Bitcoin. Right now, number one is US, then we have China, we also have UK, we have Bhutan, we have El Salvador. There are countries coming in. And now BRICS are also in the process of mining Bitcoin. So every country will eventually hold Bitcoin in order to safeguard themselves.
So that is an interesting point. So you're looking at Bitcoin as an investment tool, which which is why countries are holding on to it, which is why individuals are holding on to it, with the anticipation that because there's limited supply of 21 million, as you said, uh, and there's more demand coming in, which only means that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. Again, this is speculation. Obviously, this is not financial advice, and we're not predicting the price here, but we're just saying theoretically, this is what should happen because the demand is, going to exceed the supply,
That's
right?
correct. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a separate topic to what Bitcoin is. We're talking about cryptocurrency as a blockchain technology. where Bitcoin has solved the double spending problem, which means that every transaction is verified, is stamped, and block is created. That's all the technical side of Bitcoin. Whoever wants to read can go on to bitcoin.org and read that white paper of what Bitcoin is, and how it works. But actually, the blockchain technology actually solves the problem of double spending, and every transaction is verified, so there is no room for fraud. That's the core value that Bitcoin has, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
There is
So
nobody can manipulate it. You can see it is open source, it's decentralized. Yes,
right,
absolutely.
right. I just wanted to give listeners that context, and relate that to what you said from the second topic, which was it's used by the governments as an investment strategy, knowing that because of its limitation in supply, the price is only going to go up, up, and up. And also the halving events that happens around Bitcoin, which is another technical term which I insist listeners to go and read about so that they can truly understand what Bitcoin is and how it truly works. So my question then, Varun, is if that is the intrinsic value of Bitcoin, the demand and supply dynamics. Let's say tomorrow, uh, the United Nations or the major economies of the world come together and say, you know what, no more digging for gold. Wouldn't that technically become what Bitcoin already is?
Yeah, but then you can't really see it's not portable enough. It's not feasible. Gold has some
Mm,
kind of restrictions which Bitcoin solves it. I can't use gold for a transaction. And I need to
mm,
have some storage space. I need to have some kind of security. I need to have some kind of expertise in order to making sure that the gold I have is got it's pure and it's not adulterated. Right.
mm,
With Bitcoin, you don't need to trust anybody. You can verify. It's a code,
mm,
right? So,
mm,
and let's say if we are doing a transaction between two countries, I can't send you gold in like 15 minutes, but I can do
mm,
that with Bitcoin,
mm.
right? We've used gold, but it's no longer usable,
Right.
and it
Okay.
it can be manipulated, right? So that's the point.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that there definitely that is the distinction, and that is the benefit of having a Bitcoin and using the Bitcoin. But these are the topics that we speak to people, we bump into, and we meet on a daily basis, and these are the kind of questions that they come up with. The biggest problem or the biggest question, I think, in a way, directly or indirectly, comes down to the trust part. The technology is super trustable. Like, you can see the blockchain once you know how it works, of the CHA 256 hash technology, the double spending, the ledger, the block creating of the block. Once you understand all of this, it is truly an invention. It is truly is an innovation that was much needed. And mind you, this was not something that was created in 2008 and was invented in 2008. This Bitcoin has been the technology behind it. They've been flirting with this idea of a Bitcoin with this, cryptography and block creating blocks and the blockchain and all that since 1991. So only since 1991 when they first started flirting with this idea, and after many iterations, is what we got in the form of Bitcoin in 2008, which was created by this pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, which is probably an individual or a group of people. We don't know that. But the technology absolutely has grounds, absolutely can be trusted, because there are other industries who are using SHA 256 hashing, which basically just means that you're encrypting the information behind that, right? It's used as an encrypting standard as of today. So I think I have no doubt that Bitcoin technology, the blockchain technology, can be manipulated, and it's here to stay. Will definitely stay. I think a lot of people that I speak to, and I'm sure it's the same with you, Arun, is people's lack of trust comes from the investment wheel or the investment vehicle that is everybody's made Bitcoin about. But actually, Bitcoin is about the blockchain technology more so than an investment vehicle, right?
I would say Bitcoin is a currency which is attached to the blockchain technology, like you said. And the the point is that people are not studying it and coming to a conclusion that Bitcoin is a pump and dump scheme, or Bitcoin is a scam, or Bitcoin is just for the rich or is for the elite. My only thing is that before you actually try to understand what is Bitcoin, just ask yourself what is money, how it is created, and how it is distributed.
Mhm.
Once you understand these three important questions, that's when you will understand what Bitcoin is.
Right. Okay. So it's not just looking at it as an investment tool. It's also looking at it as a fundamental. What is money? How it's created, and what its value is really in the society. I mean, we all know what the value of money is. Come on, now, let's not kid anyone here. But the point is, how does that equate to crypto world? And when I say crypto, we are only talking about Bitcoin here, although there are a dozen others, a few thousand others rather. So yeah, I think fundamentally you have to ask the question of now, if you have the freedom to control your finances, how would you choose to do it? And we are absolutely convinced that Bitcoin is the answer. But I definitely suggest you to go back, read about it, get yourself educated, and only then get into it in any way or form that you decide to do so. Yeah, I think we are on time. Varun, any last final words for this episode before we move on?
No, I just want to thank everyone for listening, and I hope this episode, helps you to see why Bitcoin is an important part of the future of money. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Check out our other content on social media for more insights on Bitcoin and personal finance. Until next time, stack those sats, take control of your financial future, and keep pushing forward. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Ciao, ciao.